Hi guys, and welcome back to Dual Attack. And this time they're hosting, and I'm being interviewed. So there's me, Dice Down Gaming, with the lovely Tim, Connor, and Lewis. We're going to talk about my Welsh Masters, which was just last weekend now, and how I went. So first of all, how are you guys?
I'm great. How are you doing, Lewis?
I'm great. And Tim, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm very good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit tired. We had Welsh Masters last weekend, and then I got home Sunday evening, and then Monday morning I flew to Switzerland for 4 days, and now I'm back. So mentally, I'm a bit tired. Big work trip, but in spirit, I'm good, and I'm here to talk about War Machine, so I'm excited about that as well.
Oh, excellent. Did you? So sorry, just to get us kicked off. Where the Welsh Masters was in Wales, I assume. How is that a long trip for you?
So it's not too bad. It's about 3.5 hours drive. So it could be worse. And normally it's about 4.5 hours of traffic. And my buddy I went with, he's a teacher, so we had to go Friday post work as well. So we left about 5 p.m. and I think we got to Wales about 9:30 p.m. So it's not super quick, but for a weekend trip and you're driving with a friend, it's pretty easy to get to. And it's typically a really easy trip. You join one big motorway and you're on it for like 140 miles, and then you get to Wales basically. So it's not too bad. And we found like a Premier Inn, which is like a hotel chain in the UK, but a zip version. So you get a small room, but it was like £35 for a room for the night. So for £70, we had the hotel for 2 days. So yeah, it worked out really cheap as well. But it's not close, but it's also not too far away.
That's awesome. When we
And it is in Cardiff in Wales.
Cardiff, when we drive about that far in Australia, we get to a town called Banana. Just name towns after fruits in Australia. If we drive a bit further all the way down, we get to a bay called Eggs and Bacon Bay. That's in Tasmania. All the people there have two heads, so we don't visit that place very often. But it sounds like you got a good deal on the accommodation, which is cool.
Yeah, really good. It made the whole weekend pretty cheap. I think with food, because lunch they provided at the Welsh, and we were only there for 2 nights. So I think maybe between petrol and food, it was like less than £200 for a whole weekend. So I was really happy with that. So was Dan and Steve. Yeah, it was good.
Very nice, very nice. And when you got there, Aaron, what was the vibe like for the Welsh Masters? It looked awesome. We were sort of following along with you on the socials. It looked cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I think Welsh Masters has been going on for an awful long time. The last time I went to it was 2016, so nearly 10 years ago. We went as like a group of like 18 people, and it was really epic. I think it was going on for like Mark II. I'm not sure if it happened in Mark One, but ever since I joined in Mark II, which is like maybe 13 years ago, it was going on. There's a guy called Martin Jenkins. He's a bit of like a legend. He's always ran it, and Steamfor's games, they ran it this year because Martin had sort of gone out of the game, but now he's back in the game and he's going to run it again next year. So that's really cool. But it's pretty like historic's not the right word, but it's a very well-known event in the UK. It was typically one of always the biggest events in the UK. You had like Welsh Masters, and then maybe you had like British Nationals, and those two were like the big ones. So I think it's got a lot of like nostalgia, and the crowd was really cool. It was a really nice mix of old faces, like big names like Matt Gallagher, Jamie Perkins, like they were there. And then also there were lots of new faces which would like just come back from Mark IV or just have only played the game since Mark IV. So I'd say there was like 20 or so people which had only been playing since Mark IV. So about a third was completely new people, which is really promising to see. And it was a really cool vibe. Firestorm Games, they've also recently transferred venue. When I went to there before, it was a different venue to the one we went to today, like last week, and it was really, really nice. It was like half the store was like, it was a massive store, and half it was pure glass windows, so it was super light, super airy. There was a lot of space between tables, so you could put like your models and all of your widgets not on the actual table, in the area between. There was nice rooms between the tables, so your share wasn't hitting the guy's shares behind you. Really, really nice venue. There was parking at the venue, and it was a really nice vibe. It felt like one big reunion. There were so many people there I'd not seen for like 10 years that I got to say hello to. So it was good vibes.
Awesome. And there was like 65 players as well, right? Do you have any idea how many people had been to prior events? I'm just curious if this is like normal, if this is big, if this is still small? Like,
So I think last year it happened, and it was Mark IV, and that was probably before. I know, actually, I think Steam Force Games probably did have control of it last year when they were doing, and I think that was like 40-ish people, and a lot of people that were there this time had gone to that previous one. Um, so I'd say it was about a third were completely new to War Machine and the Welsh Masters, and people who had previously played Mark IV and probably gone to a Welsh Masters at one point. There's probably been 15 Welsh Masters now since it started, so they've probably been to one or two. And that was really quite nice. I saw people that there's people you speak to on Discord, and you'd say they're your friend, but like for me, they live in Manchester in the UK, and if I don't go there, I never see them. So there's so many people that I call friends, but I don't see that I got to later say hello, how is it, get a drink, was really cool.
Nice, nice. Well, we've got a few questions just to kick us off before we get into your matchup. But what I want to start with is, was there anything that surprised you, Aaron? Was there anything like less popular or more popular than you expected?
Yeah, for sure. So me and like Dan, and we also had a friend called Steve with us who he's very new to War Machine. He's a bit like he's a bit anxious, his mental health is not fantastic. So he came with us and literally just like hang with us all weekend. He watched us play the games. He's very new to tabletop, let alone War Machine. So he was like, he didn't know how people would play at a tournament. We play him, we're all very chill, we have laugh. But he was like, well, what is it like when you go and play someone you don't know in a competitive setting? So he really enjoyed that. But between me and Dan, we were like, okay, what do we think would be the most popular faction? We guessed Shadow Flame Shard. In the UK, they're incredibly popular. Like they're also like the edgy Dragon Ninjas, and everyone loves that. So we thought, okay, Shadow Flame Shard would be really popular. We think weirdly in the UK, Necrofactorium doesn't really get represented lots. In America, it's like really popular and does really well. And I think we sort of accepted Gravediggers, not necessarily to be overrepresented, but to do very well, because I think in the UK there's a few players now like Chris Clare and Leo who have really got to the point where they've like mastered them, and I think they're extremely high skill ceiling army. But when you get to that point of like you get into the ceiling, I think they're really competent. And I think for the rest, we thought, okay, there'll probably be a mix. I think the one thing that really stood out to us is like 8 House Callus players. We thought they would be on the lower end because they don't perform very well at the moment. But in hindsight, maybe the Phantasm, we could have expected a few more than usual, because in the UK, we have it now, and there was a lot of Phantasms. And I think we expected Winter Corps, because you're like playing on hard mode at the moment. There's not many of them. And I think we were surprised at how many old Umbrae that were there, because they had to be painted in time. I think some people only got them like 5 days before the event, and they still turned up painted. So that's really cool. And I think everything else we sort of expected. We weren't surprised at the amount of Shadow Flame Shard. We were surprised at the amount of House Callus.
you mentioned painting there. Were there painting requirements for the event?
Yeah, so this was an Iron Gauntlet qualifier. And as far as I understand, though there's been a bit grey area, because I think in the UK next year there's a UK, like the UK ITC sort of for the UK, so they call the UKTC, I think. They're running an event in Manchester, and it's an Iron Gauntlet qualifier. But as far as I understand, Jamie was saying it might not have to be painted, even though it probably will. But yeah, so it was fully painted because it was Steam Force Games run, and it was an Iron Gauntlet qualifier, so you had to be fully painted for both your lists.
Yeah, cool. And I know you've kind of just given us a breakdown of what you were expecting going in. Did you tool your lists for that? Like you said you were expecting a lot of Shadow Flame Shard. Did you like prep your lists to have good matchups on that, or were you kind of always just running the list you were running regardless? Like,
No, it's a good question. I think for Brian Blood, Shadow Flame is not a comfortable matchup. It certainly feels like they're the driver and you're sort of like the passenger, and what they let you do, you get away with. You're never like dictating the pace of the game, or you're not putting them in difficult positions. You're sort of like trying to react to where they put their things. A trike with Hunter's Mark is threatening 14. A Wyvern Hunter Mark is threatening 13. with all of his attacks. So right, and we have nothing really outside of a Perdition, a beast that matches that. So and Perdition can be negated by you have to move towards the closest thing. So it's not like you can ever go exactly where you want to go. So you can put things to negate Perdition. So a lot of the time it feels like, okay, well, I've got to react to you and get what you can give me. I think recently, in the UK, it's been quite popular to run like the typical Trike plus Skylar plus then a bunch of support. So like 2 lashes and then the typical like Belial, Vipex, la. And then I think the rest of the list, then once you sort of play around the Trike and maybe kill Skylar, you then not left with many functional models. So initially when I played a lot of Shadow Shard, I was trying to get the Trike. And even though it's possible over 2 turns, it can be really punishing if you roll low and they roll high for rapid healing, and then you don't get it over 2 turns and you basically lose. So I sort of then tried to pivot to, okay, what can I ignore the Trike and try and kill the rest and play on scenario? And I found that more successful. So one of my lists was always going to be like a really heavy Marauder crew list. And I sort of, okay, does that work in a Shallow Flame Shard? And I'm fortunate Dean Booth, he's local to me, is on Team England, and he plays Shadow Flame Shard. I played him at 2 or 3 times with a heavy Marauder crew list, 1 Foul Blood, 1 Boom Howler. And I found that, okay, once I kill Skylar and I kill Lashes and I run around the Trike or feed it some models, scenario becomes really viable. So I didn't necessarily tech into it. I was probably always going to take a Marauder crew spam list. I just found that list archetype went well into Shadow Flame Shard. So that would have been my drop into them. If we play them or not, that would be my drop.
Yeah, you go, Tim.
Oh no, I just want to call you out for hating frogs. What do you got against Viroggers, Aaron? They're great.
Yeah,
they can threat 18. They can do some good stuff into Shadow Flame Shard. I mean, I think you sound like a very good War Machine player, but it sounds like you just hate Froggers.
Yeah, true. So it's not a race thing. So frogs, right? You're good. What I found locally, and maybe it's probably a local thing to be fair, because whenever I show someone lists, people are like, "Oh, why the fuck have you not got froggers?" Right? But so paralyzing engage is sick, drags are sick. They're very good. But locally to me, like shield guard's really heavy. And also armies that can rack like fortify or invariable resolve are really heavy. And so often I find that if I drop a Varug, I don't really have any options to drag. And then you're sort of at that point where you can't really one round stuff with Varug that's susceptible just to being killed. And then if I'm only say Marauder crew heavy and I only want two beasts, I need a rage bot and probably some. So yeah, it's nothing against them. I think they're really good. I think it's a local thing for me that I really struggle to get like what I want out of Varug. I would love to like walk, jump, drag heavies and kill them. That would be sick. But I don't tend to get that option locally. People have got shield guards, people rack stuff, people put stuff in front of it so I can't drag it. There's a wall. Yeah, so I think they're fantastic. But I just don't really get much mileage out of them myself locally. And that's why. Nothing against frogs.
Yeah.
I don't like crabs, but frogs are okay.
You've got friends who are frogs, right?
Yeah. I don't think there's one. Dave? Yeah. Dave's good. Yeah. It's all good.
Thought so.
He's just hopping on. Right?
Shall we pivot into the actual event itself? Maybe if you want to give us a very brief summary of Tim's already called you out for the lack of frogs there, but if you want to give us, once again, you don't have to go into everything, but like vague ideas of what each list are, and then we'll start on round 1. So yeah, give us the update on the list.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a frog. I'm going to get a frog for here, and then I can no longer be called out, right? So yeah, I think Brian Blood's. I played around with all the lists now, and I played all their warlocks, and I think they have one thing in common. That typically every list has 2 or 3 Marauder crew. So I decided that I will definitely bring one really heavy Marauder crew list. I think they trade up really, really well. So getting into power 17 means they just kill heavies. And they play scenario really well when in unison with boarding parties. So I decided one archetype would be that. And then after playing around with that a lot, I found that covers nearly everything for Brian Blood. So there's a few things he doesn't want to see, but I can play that into pretty much everything and do well enough. So one of my lists was Admiral Boom Howler. I actually played around with Foul Blood a lot first of all. Obviously, no tough knockdown is really strong, and especially when you apply it to like 20 models in a list, it's really good. His feat for the +3 armor is decent. And stumbling drunk on heavies is probably one of the best things about him. Really hard to interact with. So I played that for a while, and it was pretty much the same. I was playing around with like 4 Marauder Crew, 1 Locker Bash, and 2 Boarding Party, and different attachments, or like 4 Marauder Crew, 1 Locker Bash, 1 Boarding Party, different attachments. But the overall archetype was just loads of dudes and a leader. I really enjoyed Stormjaw. He's +1 to hit, and he's being able to weapon master and sprint is really good. And I typically always run Boom Howler for the force barrier. And his like pseudo 10-inch spray, which can come out of nowhere, is really good. So I settled on Boom Howler purely really for precision strike. Being able to move through your army when you have like 30 medium bases next to each other is really fantastic. So I ended up going with 4 Marauder Crew with 2 bosuns, so plus speed and vengeance on 2 units, and Pathfinder, which is really useful in the army. And then 2 Marauder Crew units with Quartermasters, so they're pretty good at shooting for once a game, and you get 2 sprays. And actually, there's a nice interaction between Boom Howler and Quartermasters. That she's got Spyglass, one of the few ways that you can actually play around stealth in the faction. And then I did put the Locker in the end, because that second wave of like power 20 where you lift off a heavy is really nice. And then I end up with 1 Boarding Party, and I had a galley crew, which I was really torn between, because most games, I only have Shum and a Rage Bot as my heavies, a Deepborn Diatrol with the Rage Head. And most games I don't need the extra Fury management, but there's some games where I would like to spend 8 Fury in 1 turn and can't physically without a galley crew. So I end up, for the 3 points, had 1 galley crew in there. So that was pretty much list 1. It was like Boom Howler, 2 heavies, 4 Marauder Crew, Locker Bash, Boarding Party, 3 solos in Madame, Boom Howler, and Stormjaw, and the galley crew and Boarding Party. And actually, Stormjaw being able to, like, with precision strike, charge through your army, kill 2 things, sprint back into a position for Marauder for like veteran leader, I found like was killer, right? And put Stormrazor on him, like Mat 10, Power 15, Weapon Master. You can put Fury Strength on him, and he's Power 17. He charged a trike and did 18 damage because he spiked his roll. So what a legend. So that was my first list, and it covered most of my matchups. So I was thinking then, what don't I want to see? More rain, I don't want to see, because the mortality just makes Marauder Crew really sad. I actually think Sepsira and 30 Mechanophrals I probably could have dealt with between Blackspot and Marauder Crew, because you get a lot of attacks. So definitely not more rain. And the mirror match, actually, I think Firequill is really exceptional in. He kills Marauder Crew really easily, and he kills other Brian-Blood Warlocks really easily. So I sort of ended up on Firequill, I think partly because I actually really enjoy Firequill. I like a Warlock that actually sort of plays the game themselves as well, rather than just sort of put some buffs out and ends the turn. So a bit of personal bias for me for Firequill. So I ended up with that as a second list because it answers the mirror well, answers more rain well. And I think when I previously played against Mechanophrals, I killed 30 in 1 turn with the list. So it was like, it also handles that list. So that was my second list. And I think Firequill makes the Abyssal King shine more than anyone else. You can put out, 2 power 19s, 2 power 18s, and you can broadside and you can open fire. And you can kill a heavy or 2 quite effectively each turn. So I had a king with 1 of each gun. So I quite like that for broadside, 1 powder cask and 1 main gun. You have the option when you broadside. And then I had a Rage Bot heavy, because for some reason Rage makes the Abyssal King shoot harder. So I have a Rage Bot. 2 Reef Trolls, because they got a 15-inch gun with snipe, and they can move 5. An Arcing Fire is now ignores all line of sight. So you've basically got a 20-inch little missile you can put wherever you want. Really good if you knock down someone's caster with Firequill, and then just to shoot them Reef Trolls. And then it's unfortunate, I think one of Firequill's biggest limitations is the FA2 on Galley Crew, because really I just want them to add more War Beasts, but you can't, right? Because you can't manage it. So I have some Marauder Crew of Quartermasters, which don't necessarily do anything with Firequill out of the norm. Then I think 1 Boarding Party and 1 Galley Crew and Madame Moriarty, and 1 single Fire Guardian, because you can cover half your table with magic weapons, and if you play like Kane, it's sort of like it's really useful. So I had a main list of Boom Howler with sort of an off list of Firequill.
Yeah, cool. And do you want to maybe take us into round 1 of
Yeah, absolutely. So round 1 was really funny actually. I was there's not many Brian Blood mirrors, and the potential for them is low. And then round 1 gets paired, and I paired into Jacob. So this is really nice. Jacob's on Team WTC for England. he been playing Briar Blood for a long time, and me and him often, if he's in a tournament or I'm in a tournament, I'll message him saying like, what you're taking, and we talk about Briar Blood a lot. But he's also, for me in the UK, is a lot northern than me, and we don't really see each other unless we're at an event. So it was the first time I'd ever played Jacob, so that was really cool. And I was really excited. I know he's a really competent player, so I was like, if I'm going to do well, I might as well start with competent players and hopefully carry on. So it was a mirror. He had a Foul Blood with like basically Marauder Crew archetype, and he had Razemonger, which was a great old one, Shum, a heavy, some Marauder Crew with Quartermasters, I think a Pig Dirge, etc. So a bit more mixed arms list, and then one spammy list. And I had my two, and we both sort of like were. I was pretty happy that I got a Firequill in that instance. Jacob was like, this is going to be rough. So I picked Firequill, and he ended up with Razemonger rather than Foul Blood. I think it's interesting. Foul Blood has blur, so it makes shooting things harder. But I think he was worried that he had 4 Marauder Crew, and if I Blackspot one of them, Firequill could kill like 10 Marauder Crew in one turn. So he went with a bit more beast heavy. Great Old One is also a bit more resilient to shooting, right? So not as easy to shoot off in one turn. So that was the matchup. He had Razemonger into Firequill. I can't remember the scenario, but I can get it up because I got Longshanks art. It was Color Guard for the moving flags. And we did the roll off, and I really wanted to win first turn, right? Both of our Marauder Crew essentially shoot 21. Neither of us can make that further. So, if my Marauder Crew walk first, he has to stay back and vice versa. And I won the roll off, and I got to go first. So that was really cool. So I chose first. And yeah, turn 1, I just ran everything, and it turned up on Jacob's turn 2. He sort of like didn't really move Razemonger. Hey, it's a doggy. Didn't really move Razemonger because Firequill is threatening 18. He could move like an inch before being in Firequill sort of shooty range. So his turn 1 was really, really passive. His Marauder Crew stayed out of 21 inches of my Marauder Crew. Double doggo. And we had a bit of a Mexican standoff with our Marauder Crew. He ran Shum up and put up Fortify. And so on my turn 2, I killed Shum with the King and Firequill because with Fortify also didn't mean he didn't stumble off, so I could sort of just kill him where he was. I killed some Marauder Crew, like 2 or 3 with my Reef Troll, and put my Reef Trolls on the 250 millimeter objectives. And I felt really good position. I'd not lost anything. I killed Shum and some Marauder Crew, and I thought, okay, this is going pretty well. And then it goes to Jacob's turn, and he had like 2 options, right? He could try and petition. I put my booty boss in a way that petition was really hard. There was a building, and I put it opposite the building. So if he petitioned, it would just basically walk into the building because the booty boss was the closest thing. He was like he could kill the booty boss with some Marauder Crew, then he could petition and potentially get Great Old One into the King. And if he killed the King under Razemonger feet, I was like, you probably win. And if he doesn't kill the King, I kill a Great Old One and the Marauder Crew, and I probably win. So he was like, okay, that's not great. But then he measured some stuff out, and he could just feet, charge my Reef Troll on the objective, and then be like within 0.1 to be 8 inches of Firequill. And then he could, drag Firequill, and then he had Great Old One in the list, so he could cast the Great Old One Animus. So Firequill has Bullet Dodger as a spell, which gives you dodge, and you're Def 17. The Animus of the Great Old One is if you're base to base, you can't advance. So he could also cast that, and even if he missed, I couldn't move out. And he was like really torn between it. He ended up going for the assassination. The risk being that if you miss the drag, Firequill has got reciprocate. So if you miss a ranged attack on Firequill, you can fire a momentum shot back at him and knock him down. So it was like you get it or you don't. But to be credit to Jacob, he still had defeat, and he had Puppet Master. So and he had Blessing the Gods. So he needed to hit 8s with a reroll, and 1s become 6s. I was like, you probably got this, right? So he went for it. He hit the drag, and he put up the Animus, so I couldn't advance. And I think the Reef Troll on the last attack got Firequill. So it was really awesome to see. And it's absolutely on me, right? I racked Blackspot for, to threaten the Marauder Crew. And I racked Fortune because I expected to play into Rough Seas. So that would have been useful for my Marauder Crew. But I think in hindsight, right, I should have just racked Fortify. Then I can fortify my King and be base to base with it. And then I can never be dragged. And that stops that. So it was really, really great to see Jacob. I love seeing those assassinations come off. So I was like, yeah, awesome. Like, go for it. I think it would be cool to see. And I think, it was just on me. I didn't anticipate it right. It was like exactly in. It was like our feet and shards, 5 plus 9, the 2-inch reach, and then at an angle I was like 8 inches this way, it's like 24 inches away. And he was like, I think I got it. And once he like showed me, I was like, I think you got it too, right? There's no reason you shouldn't have it. So yeah, it was really great to see. It was a really great game. And that was a loss for me as Firequill got sent to Pound Town.
Very good. Well, do we want to run into round 2, where I'm sure you had a very different matchup?
Yeah. I was like, there's no way I get Brian Bloods again now, right? Because there's only 6 of us, so there's only 5 other players. I've been killed by one already, so there's no chance. So then the pairings goes up, and it's Brian Bloods round 2. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll only play Brian Bloods. It'll be 5 games of Brian Bloods. So this was against Russ, who I get on really well with. I'm quite fortunate. I sort of talk to him quite a lot about Brian Bloods. He's the lead sculptor for Steamforce Games, also a really, really lovely person. So he had Brian Bloods as well, and he had Shadow Tongue and he had Ragemonger. For me, again, it was 2 fronts this time. I was pretty happy with Firequill, and I think if it wasn't assassinated, I was in a really strong position. And if he didn't get the king with Jacob, I pretty much would have sealed the game. So I was like, okay, I think I go Firequill again and not make the same mistake. Russ decided to go for Ragemonger. I'm not really sure. I didn't really go into depth to him, like why he picked Ragemonger. I think he's more of a painting guy and he doesn't get to play too much. And mental load, he just sort of said like, right, I'm going to go Ragemonger. It's a bit more simple. Shadow Tongue's got a lot going on. So I said, okay, great, no worries. And I won the roll again, so I got to go first again, and I picked first. And this time I racked Fortify and I racked Blackspot. And I made a little triangle with a Fire Guardian, Firequill, and a Reef Troll. The Reef Troll had Fortify behind both. And I was like, I'm not fucking moving. I'm not going anywhere. No one's dragging me anywhere. So I made a triangle of not being moved. So that was I implemented it and went well. And unfortunately, Russ got a little too close to Firequill. So I knocked Ragemonger down. And he was like, I've got a rough season. That I was like, yeah, sorry, man. Like with the feet, I'm rat 9. Your defense for 13 or 14, I think. And I've got 4, so I got like 4 dice. If I roll 1, 1, 1, 2, I still hit you. So I knocked down Ragemonger, and then I think I got all the fury off him just with Firequill, and then the Quartermasters hopped in and got him. That was actually like I think bottom of 2, so it was quite a quick game, unfortunately. But that was good to see that a bit of learning from myself and how I can protect against a drag really easily with the tools I have. So that was nice. It was nice to see it play Russ. I've never actually got to play Russ, and another one that I talk to probably every other day or every 3 days, but like never got to play him. So that was really, really nice. And also I was hoping now that there's no way I can play Brian Bloods again, right? Two out of the way. And it was quite weird actually, because there was a lot of mirror matches across the board. In the first round, there was another Brian Bloods mirror, I think, or round 2. So, and then in round 5, I think there was another Brian Bloods mirror. So there was a lot of mirror matches even outside of Brian Bloods. And I'm not sure if Longshanks has changed the algorithm or something, but we noticed over the weekend there was a lot of mirror matches.
I don't know if you're planning on saying this, Lewis, but one of Lewis's favorite running gags is Brian's killing Brian's.
It's the same old story. Brian's killing Brian's.
Yeah, well, it happened a lot. Because Jacob got to round 5 and there were 2 4-1 Brian Bloods, and they end up playing each other as well. So yeah, there was a lot of Brian on blind action.
No, I don't mind telling you, I was following the Longshanks pretty closely for this one, Aaron. At the end of every round, I was messaging our group chat, being like, Aaron got up. However, there is another Brian's in the 1-1 bracket. We got to manifest this. We got to make sure that he's got another matchup. This is out of control.
And I suppose for me, right, it's worth saying that like what I would have liked to achieve is that I think 4-2 for me was a really, really. I was hoping I would go 4-2, right? At the moment, there's some weeks I don't play a game of War Machine at all. I don't really play all that regularly, and local to me, the meta's not massively diverse, and a lot of people aren't also like ultra competitive. So there might be some, like I played a game the other day and it was a very casual friend and it was my one game for the week. And I brought like a bag of the bomb list, which all max FA ball croak just for like fuck around, right? So not only do I not get to play super regularly, I'm not also always playing against like meta armies. So I'm not exactly like super well placed or practiced to go 6-0, right? So for me, I was like, realistically, if I could have gone 4-2, I was like, I would be really happy with that. I think 5-1 would be overachieving, like possible and doable, but probably did a bit better than I deserve. If I went 3-3, I was like, okay, I wouldn't really mind that. Go neutral, but I probably left a bit on the table. So 4-2 was my goal for the end, and currently 1-1. So could go either way, right?
Well, I mean, despite not having the practice, obviously, like you had got that experience in the first game and you got to apply it directly into the second. So it really goes to show how much that really can help, right? Like maybe you
Absolutely.
overkilled it a little bit with the Firequill jail, but that's all right. That's part of the learning.
Yeah. There was no way I was moving, right? No way.
No way. Look, I will leave you with Connor for round 3. I'm just gonna pop off for just 1 second.
All right.
No worries.
Yeah, if you wanna go us round 3, and we don't have to go through turn by turn. So I guess just the summary, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. So this was payload. I think the worst scenario. I fucking hate payload. So get out of the way. I think it's crap. So playing against Winter Corps. And they had a Vilcol plus someone they probably weren't going to drop because it's Winter Corps. And I had my 2. So against Winter Corps, I'm really happy with like mass marauders. You cast Rough Seas, it makes hard life for them. Duck and cover plus force barrier can protect one flank from any bisons. So I dropped my Boom Howler. He dropped Vilcol. And it was against Chris. I know him quite well. I've played against on War Table a few times and not met in person. Chris won the role. He decided to go first and then did this really interesting thing of he cycloned and ran Vilcol into a trench in the middle of the table, like 15 inches away from my whole army. And I was like, okay. So I can't, wherever I move, if I move 3 inches backwards, I'm still in your threat range of like assassination. But I did sort of take a look and there was a chance if I hit a petition, my Reef Troll could have just got into Vilcol on my turn 1. But I needed 13s. And I was like, I can play I can walk up, hit and run. If I fail it, hit and run backwards. And so I tried it with Puppet Master. I didn't get either 13s. So I just decided to camp some Fury and hit and run backwards. And then I sort of I feated on turn 1 because I was aware that if he feated on his turn 2 and just like mowed down all my Marauder crew, I wouldn't have much left. So I feated turn 1. He then played like a defensive turn 2, really, rather than going aggro. So he feated, put clouds in front of my army. I think he got a bit fixated by shooting Shum. He shot some of everything and left him with like 5 boxes. And then for me, I managed to get into a position. Vilcol wasn't in a forest, and I managed to essentially shoot her off the table with sort of Marauder crew in range of Stormjaw with their mini feet. I managed to get her just pop her off. So I assassinated Vilcol on top of 2. Yeah, with the Marauder crew and various bits. So that was another. So far, I had 3 really quick games. There had been like about 25 minutes to 30 minutes each game. So I was mentally wasn't too stressed, which is quite nice.
I think like not every game needs to be a quick game, but it's nice to get a quick game in a tournament just to give yourself some break time. Maybe like. I mean, the dream is your quick game is the one right before lunch, right? Because then you get a bit of extra lunchtime.
Absolutely.
So, but that was round 3. Am I right in understanding? Because I know it was a 2-day event, and I know there's 6 rounds. Was it 3 and 3, or was it 4 and 2 in the way they split over the days?
So it was 4 and 2 purely because there was potential for a 3rd round on day 2. Because there were, I think, there was above 64 players. There were points, there was a pair down. And actually, until round 5, the pair down won. So until we were expecting 3 games on day 2 until the first game of day 2. And then it was only 2 games. So it was 4, then 2, with the potential of 4, then 3.
Yeah, cool. So you, so this is like, well, like I guess roughly what time does round 4 start? Just out of curiosity.
So I think lunch was started at. you could get your lunch at 1:30, I think. So then probably we started playing round 2 about 2:30. So I think probably round 4 was like 4ish, 4:30.
Yeah.
So we're into the afternoon, evening.
Yeah, cool. And so your round 4 was into Eviscerus? And you were saying
Yes.
before that the UK doesn't seem to rate cricks very much. So I guess, are you well practiced in the cricks, or?
Yeah, I don't think they're not well rated. I think they just don't get played that much. And weirdly, like Sep-Zero, who is like really popular in America, is not popular in the UK at all. Like Eviscerus, I don't know why, is really popular in the UK. People seem to really like Eviscerus. I think Kaiphos is universally popular, but in terms of my practice against them, local to me, like Matt Hart, he plays cricks quite a bit. So I've played it into cricks quite a bit now. So I'm like well-ish practice into them. The only caster I've not played it is the Cafis. But I played the rest. And I would say cricks tend to, they nearly always have some Criterion, some Sludge Frowls, some Necrosurgeons. So there's some variation, but I tend to know some of what the list does. So it was into, this was actually really, really interesting list discussion because he had Nikane with a heavy incorporeal list and he had a Viscerus with heavy Jack list. So from my perspective, Boom Howler didn't want to see Nikane because I don't have a Fire Guardian in the list at all. So I have really limited ways to deal with all the incorporeal. But on the flip side, it handles a Viscerus really, really well because he has like 4 heavies and some lights, and all my Marauder crew kill all of it. So I was like, okay, that's good. And then from his perspective, he was quite happy for Nikane into Boom Howler because, the magic weapons, but he didn't want to see Firequill into Nikane. So we were basically like a coin flip on what list we picked each. So it ended up, I think the best case for me, he picked a heavy cohort list and I picked all my Marauder crew. So it was just a case of, I think unless I sort of...
Sorry, just quickly. You when you say you picked your Marauder crew, sorry, I'll get through that. You dropped Boom Howler into him?
Yes, yeah. And he dropped...
You called his bluff, dropped a list with no magic weapons into an opponent who had a list of a whole bunch of incorporeal, and you won the list chicken.
I think so. And I don't know if it was me calling his bluff. It's just that, for him, if he dropped Nikane and I dropped Boom Howler, you could say he called my bluff, but you don't know. It was really difficult. So I think I just got really I got really lucky. We both said that whatever we pick, it is really dependent on what our opponent picked. So we were 50-50 in a way in what our opponent picked as well as what we picked. So got quite lucky. And I think unless I sort of let him charge into Boom Howler with a Ghost Walk from Long Bomb, Red Line Feet charge, or let Grendel trample into Boom Howler, there's just no way, right? He can kill my stuff and not lose his stuff back. So I think, his turn 2, he went first. He ran some Criterions to try and jam me up. But I, with Precision Strike, charged the Locker Bastion Stormjaw through the back of the army to the front, and then was able to then charge Shum and Marauder crew through that again. So on my turn 2, I killed like unit Criterions and 2 heavies, and I had not lost anything, right? So now he's got like 2 heavies, 1 unit Criterions, and a couple of lights against all of my stuff. So I do think though, unless I just gave him my caster, whatever he sends in, there's no way he can trade up. Even if he kills, say, like 3 units of Marauder crew, a Locker Bash could kill 1 heavy, Shum could kill another 1, and my heavy kills another 1. And, then again, he hasn't got enough to kill me back. So I feel unless I just really, really misplayed with the way the list played out, would have been hard for me to lose that one.
Yeah. And yeah, no, that's cool. I'm interested in this because I like a Viscerus. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I think it's an interesting kind of position you found yourself in the way the army played out.
And I think my thought was that if I play Firequill, if he plays Nikane, I'm really, really happy. If he plays a Viscerus, even though there's D-Cell, a king with like 4 on the feet turn can shoot off like 1 heavy. And then I've still got 2 Marauder units and I can rack Fury Strength, and I have got 1 Booty Boss in the Firequill list. So they can kill a heavy each, and they're both Quartermasters, so I can probably shoot off a light or 2. The Criterions can just be eaten by a king or thing. So I was like, okay, I'm not too unhappy with Viscerus, and I'm really happy with Nikane. But Boom Howler, I was like, I basically just win against Aviserys, I think. And I was thinking I could probably get away with like Blessing of the Gods, one thing to kill one unit of Night Terrors. And then I would only have one unit of Night Terrors to handle. So I was also happy enough. And I think I played 2 games of Firequill and I was like, you know what, I'd like to play some Boom Howler. So I flipped the coin and I got lucky, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you did good.
And that was day 1. So I ended 3-1 on day 1, which I was super happy with. I thought, I think, okay, I would, if I lose 2 games tomorrow, I wouldn't really mind it. I would still go 3-3 and I had a really good time. So we went for a Chinese in the evening, we love Chinese. So that was really nice. And we played a card game called Riftbound, which is like a League of Legends card game that's coming out. We played that all evening. So I had a really nice evening. It was really, day 1 was really good.
What's your go-to Chinese order, Aaron? Because I know that in the UK there's quite a big like Chinese culture, like food culture, which we kind of have here, but not in the same. Like we don't have spice bags or anything like that here.
Okay. So typically, I love rice, not just like Chinese rice. I just love rice in general. So like egg fried rice, definitely. Probably beef and black bean sauce. It's probably my favorite to go with that. And then I really love salt and pepper chicken. I don't know if you have that in Oz. It's like battered chicken with loads of salt and pepper on, basically, and it's really, really good. So that would probably be what I normally go for. But with the restaurant we went to, the portions were huge, and obviously you don't know that until you order it, right? So I got this special chow mein and beef and black bean, and they bring out this like bowl of noodles, and I'm like, holy crap! And we all got like 2 or 3 things each. So we sat there like, there's just no way. So we left like barely being able to walk because we didn't want to leave the food. So we stuffed most of it in, but we shouldn't have. It was far too much food.
Look, you'd had a big brain day. You needed to carb load for those synapses the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does round 5 look like? What was starting
really
the day
excited.
fresh, fully fueled?
Yeah, so round 5, we got the pairings like late first Saturday evening, which I love when you do that because you can speak to your friends. Like, oh, what are you playing tomorrow morning? And we talked about that. So it was against another fella, James, who I spoke to on the UK Discord but never got to play. So I was like super stoked. So far, I've only played people who I've spoke to but not played. Apart from Chris, I played on more table. Yeah, he had Old Umbre, and then my next army, right? So I was like, oh, awesome, get to see a bit of them. And I was like, I was feeling quietly confident. I was like, I don't think Old Umbre without bears do well into like all the Marauder crew. So I was like, okay, I don't mind that. I was probably always going to drop Boom Howler. James had Yana or Bodan. One had 1 Apex, one had 2 Apexes. They were my main worry. They could technically kill like my whole army, right? If I don't make a tough run.
Oh, the big old cats with killing spree, those guys.
Yeah. I was really conscious. Like I made sure like I put my units in blocks so you couldn't go through all of them. But it didn't matter in the end. But so he picked Yana because the feat. It's I'll be honest, I never played against Yana before, and he told me his feat was overtake, and I was like, okay, great. And then just that went out my brain a minute after. He won the roll and went first. Actually, no, that's a lie. And it was my mistake. I won the roll and gave him first because I was like, okay, the scenario was trench warfare. There's loads to score. I was hoping that, I would be able to really score big on turn 2. So I gave James first. But what I found, right, so James took his first turn and ran up. And I was like, okay, like with Conferred Rage and Rush and Bloodthirst, like they were threatening like 15 to 16 inches with basically all the war beasts. He had the hounds to shoot me. And I was like, okay. So I basically moved like an inch or 2 on turn 1 with my whole army. And I made sure I was like, Boom Howler was outside of 15 and 16 of everything. But my mistake was, because I've not played Old Umber before or Yana before, I put Boom Howler like within the first like 1 or 2 trolls rather than in the back of like 6 or 7 trolls. So I did my turn 1, and James was like, "I'm pretty sure you're dead," and I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like, let me know how," because I love assassinations, and it's really interesting because both Jacob and James were like really apologetic. They were like, "Oh, I think I can kill your caster," and it's interesting, like. I love it, right? If someone kill my caster, I'm like, great. That's like a big part of the game. And if you see it and play for it, then awesome, right? You saw it, you play for it, you get it. So it's interesting that they're really apologetic. So James sort of like he was like, right, so my feat's overtake. And I was like, oh yeah, that would work, right? So Yana walked up and threw her javelin, spear, pole. I don't know. She threw something at a troll.
Explosive crits, armor piercing, javelin. It's some nonsense. Yeah.
Right. Well, fair. Well, that's what she threw, and it did the job, and it killed a troll. So then it triggered Conferred Rage. He cast Rush on the Primeval. It got Wild Aggression. It got Corpses through the Animist. It hopped up, killed a couple of trolls, and then overtook into Boom Howler. And this point was like power 20, Grievous Wounds, boosted to hit. And I think I had 2 Fury, and I was still very much dead. So that game lasted about like 15 minutes probably. That was another very quick game. And it was a shame. I think if Boom Howler didn't die, it would have been really interesting to see how well they could kill enough Marauder crew before. Because I think once you kill like an old Umbre is quite interesting at the moment. Their lists tend to be like 3 heavies, loads of support, and a unit or 2. And I think if I killed the 3 heavies, there wouldn't have been much less left to actually like functionally play the game. But we didn't get to see that because I died very quickly. So that was game 1, and it gave me a very nice, easy morning. I went and played card games with my friends and had a nice chilled morning. So it was lovely to see James, and I think it was a good example of like just how far out old Umbre are going to threaten from. Because like Galina's got Beta Line, so she can do similar threat ranges. And even outside of those 2, just Rush and like on Bloodthirst on the Starved to make them go really far. And then Bodan's got Befuddle, right? So even though they're not charging that far, he pulls you in. So it was a good demonstration of just how lethal and far old Umbre are going to come from.
There you go. So you had the very short game. You went and hung out with your friends for a couple of hours. And then you regrouped for your final game. This was the make or break for whether you hit your 4-2 goal.
Yeah, and it was quite funny. So my buddy Dan, who's typically I'd say a better player than me, he was having a hard time. Right, he won his first 2, and then he had lost his next 3. He was 2 and 3 at this point. So and I was like 3 and 2, and it was very weird. Normally he does better than me. He's a very good player. So we were both hopeful for a last win because I think he would have been like bummed if he ended 2 and 4. He's much better than that, and he was not having the best weekend. So we were both hopeful for a last win. So it was again to Graham, another person who I spoke to on Discord, never played. So it was a fantastic weekend of meeting people and getting to play them. I've never played against. He had Huxley and Calder. I've played against Calder once. I've never played against Huxley. So it was really interesting. I think it was quite an interesting list discussion. His Calder had like a Maelstrom and then a bunch of units, and his Huxley had, I think, the typical 4 heavies, 3 lights, and some mechanics Huxley. I feel like Boom Howler, I was pretty happy into both. You can wreck Fortune and you're pretty accurate as Marauder Crew, so the Calder feat didn't really hurt too much. And against Huxley, I was sort of like, it was a typical scenario to Viscerous, right? That I felt like there's no way he could kill my Marauder Crew before I lift off all his heavies. So he picked Huxley, and it was best laid plans, which I think is my second least favorite scenario. And typically, like the unit objective went, which is the worst one for me to go because I have fucking loads of units, and so we end up playing like a mosh pit in the middle because there's not anything left on that side. But he did struggle with the way Graham deployed. He deployed actually quite heavy on the objective he sort of put his army on the 2/3 that had the 2 objectives and 1 light on the side that had the caches. And whereas I did commit 1 unit of Marauder Crew to the catch side, and the rest sort of shifted along. So when I took first, because going against Huxley second can be a bit tough with Iron Horse and how far they go. But on his turn 2, he only put like 1 light on the catch objective. So on my turn 3, I got the catch. On his turn 2, he really, really committed to Shum. He unfortunately got himself in a bit of trouble where he pushed Shum in a way where he couldn't Stumbling Drunk, and then shot the troll behind Stumbling Drunk and killed that. So then Shum could Stumbling Drunk back. So he sent the general in, and eventually I Stumbling Drunk too far away. He then repositioned, and he committed Calder feat, but it took like 5 more jackhammers to get him. So that was like that trick gone, and the general like in the middle of my whole army. So on my turn would have been my turn 3. I killed a general, a heavy, a light, some units of the little veins, which give you minus range. So I had a pretty strong turn 2. I think I killed 2 heavies. I sent one Lockerbash died, but 2 Lockerbashes at power 18 went into one of the heavies and did like 20 damage and nearly killed that. So, and then I also scored the catch, and I also scored both. So I was really strong in scenario after my turn 2, and we ground out to the point where there was literally only Huxley left, and I won on scenario, and I still had quite a few Marauder crew running around. So that was a really great game. It was lovely to play Graham, first time playing him, and he was lovely. But I think that was a typical case of you've got a bunch of cohort models, and I've got like 30 models which kill cohort models, and you just can't kill them. You can't kill fast enough before you lose that trade up. So that was a really lovely game, and Rough Seas played a big factor there as well because all the stuff's got guns, and it makes even if you have to boot, even if you're still here, having to boost all of your attack rolls just means there's less to boost damage, right? So yeah, really good game, and it meant I ended 4-2. So I was really happy with that. I think that's a good result for me. I sort of played well, and I had a really fantastic weekend socially and result wise. So I couldn't have asked for a better time.
Amazing. No, it sounds like an incredibly successful weekend overall. You know, you had some live learning. So I guess what's your takeaway from the weekend? And welcome for Tim to jump in on this as well, but just about brines at the moment in the meta, especially in the UK and in the lead up to WTC. I don't anticipate too many brines players at the WTC, to be honest, but do you think that's a missed opportunity?
It's interesting because the win rate of Blind Bloods is actually pretty high, but the actual conversion rate from Blind Bloods is quite low. There's not many Blind Bloods that go 6-0 or 5-0, but there's lots of Blind Bloods that go like 4-2 or 5-1. I think there's a few things like to keep them in check. I think Gravediggers is really tough for them. Rough Seas don't make any difference because they're so accurate. They shoot from so far away. Like with Boom Boom, they're repositioning 5, which is like half my whole threat range. They move backwards. I think Gravediggers will keep them in check. I think Shadow Flame Shard, while it's doable, they're incredibly popular in the meta. And typically, like a Cyrus trike list is really hard for Brian Bloods. And if your opponent plays it perfectly, I feel like you're in a real hot battle. So I think there's currently things in the meta like that they keep them in check. So you could go like 5-0 and then bump into Cyrus trike or Gravediggers and lose because it's a really hard matchup. So I think they're really good, and especially in a team environment where you can dodge that, right? If you didn't have to play Gravediggers or Brian Bloods, I feel like you would be in a really good place. I think the only thing that is a shame from Brian Bloods is that most lists look the same. You essentially default to 2 or 3 Marauder crew and heavies, and the way the units are in the faction, that's really your only offensive choice. You could try and make Fire Spitters work, but in single wound meta, I don't think there's a lot of hate for them. I think I think in a team event, I would really want like probably Ragemonger Boom Howler in a pairing, right? That's probably what I'd take. But I think in the overall meta, I think they're incredibly potent. I think there's a few things that just keep them in check of converting whole events. But I think like for example, I think Brian Blood just at that weekend had like a 60 or 72% win rate between us, but obviously no one took the 6-0. So I think they're very competent, really good in a team event, but there's certain things that keep them in check in the meta.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Tim.
So
Yeah,
it's so interesting, Aaron, that you saying diggers are really good into brine bloods. Like we in Australia actually probably read the opposite. Like our brines go really well into diggers. To be honest, the only matchup in diggers that I have struggled with brines is probably Jake's. I played that matchup only yesterday and figured that out, but. Yeah, we're finding brines are pretty good into diggers, to be honest. We could probably do a whole episode on that, but it's interesting that you've read the opposite. So that it just shows you how different metas and different lists can affect your read on matchups like that.
Do you guys have much Boom Boom?
Yeah, we have a bit of it. One of our locals, Gigantor, he played Boom Boom for a little bit there, and yeah, that is a pretty good list. But I think honestly, like brines have a lot of tools that can deal with Boom Boom.
Yeah, I think the read that at least I have on it is like I feel like you have to bring Boom Howler in case of, and that's just because obviously Def 12 will just die on site. Def 14 still not quite good enough. There needs to be something else to bring you up. And my read and just the games that we've had is that between duck and cover and force barrier, bringing 2 units to 16, 16 or 18 on that turn under rough seas, that's enough. Like you're suddenly forcing 4-man CRAs to kill 1 marauder, and that's not a very good trade deal.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's fair. I think locally, like I've struggled into diggers. It's mainly been boom Jakes and boom boom. But it might be just a practice thing, and I need to get better.
I mean, after you record your event, it sounds like you're pretty good. I don't know.
I think I'm pretty good is probably an exaggeration. I think I lean heavily on had the strength of Marauder crew. But I think I'm always sort of a person that I love like reading about the game, right? Some people will play a game and just sort of play the game and not, whereas I'm always like looking at lists and looking at metas and that. So I would say I'm, out of a 5, I'm like a 3, but I'm really happy with 4-2.
I think my take on the is my audio okay? Yeah. Yeah, sweet. My take on the challenge, and not as someone who plays Brian's, but my take on their problem with the current meta is what Aaron was saying before, which is your lists often look quite similar, and even your caster's abilities are quite similar. Like the thing that counters Boomhowler, like half of Boomhowler's feat is anything that gets through, like Grievous Wounds or anything that stops you healing, right? And that's the exact same thing that counters half of Foulblood's feat, because it's so much of their game plan is built around this like tough shenanigans. And yeah, the problem is when you have so many lists that sort of do the same thing and then get countered by something like, sorry, slight deviation, but like another problem I think they have is the fact that the tricky is so popular. So people are packing already any kind of tool they have, like, Entropic Force or whatever it is, any of that stuff to get past, and criterions. Like there's so much other stuff that is good because of excessive healing or healing abilities, that the thing that counters them also just randomly does a drive-by on Boomhowler and Foulblood and stuff like that.
Yeah, they catch a lot of strays, and like Silence of Death is like gets printed over and over. Even Old Umbre have Grievous Wounds on stick now with Primevals, right? Like, they just catch a lot of strays that aren't necessarily targeted at them, that hurt them a bit as well.
Very good. So overall on the weekend, it sounds like Gravediggers is a personal boogeyman for you. But did you feel vindicated that they took out first and second for the event?
Yeah, I didn't expect them to do that well, but I think they are sort of, when you look at how the army works, right, with your additional command cards and your airdrops, and we sort of locally in the UK, we certainly thought that there's going to be a lot of people, without causing offense to anyone, that try to be good with them and don't quite make it because there's so much going on. Then there's going to be some people who are naturally skilled and also invest a lot of time in the game that break that barrier and then have mastered these options you have every turn and the flexibility of the army that then jump to this next level. So I mean, I'm surprised to see 1 and 2. It's obviously pretty rare, but I'm not surprised that they did so well. I suppose Old Umbre going 5-1 is surprising, but not so much because Wout is probably one of the best players in the world, so he could probably take anything and do well. So I suppose, but if you look at the win rate just for Gravediggers, they had like a 74% win rate across the event. So everyone who played them did very well. So I think it just shows that, yeah, if you can get to a point where you can utilize that Swiss Army knife, you're very strong. I think the only thing for me, it feels like they're, rather than being jack of all trades and master of none, they're master of nearly all of them, right? You Vargas with an armor skew, you can play that really heavy cohort arming game. Jakes can crack armor incredibly well and threaten a really nasty assassination with the feet. And then you have Boom Boom, who sort of does a really nasty vectors with the feet and rangers, and plays a bit more of a mid. Doesn't really assassinate very well, but plays scenario incredibly well with the feet and the Repo 5 and threatens really far. So rather than being like, oh, well, they can't quite do this and that, they can just do all of it. And they've also got all of the tools at the same time. So I think they're incredibly, incredibly strong at the moment, if you can get to the point where you can utilize it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that your take is that they're so versatile. I'm just thinking back to the last episode we did, and one of your questions to us was, who did you drop the most? Like, who were you most confident dropping? And our answer was it was me and Lewis, because I guess we had the perspective that it was easier to counter Tim just from the list being played, but maybe, I don't know, maybe Tim's worse than whoever it was that came first and second.
Yeah, I'm shithouse. I'm really bad. But
well, I don't think maybe the lists maybe aren't so flexible, but I think just that when you're building your list, right, you can pick and choose pretty much any archetype you want and build it.
Yeah. The in almost the opposite question, which is instead of doing so well, I was really interested by the fact that Chimera obviously had the highest showing, as you said before. But the first Chimera is Jamie Kitchen Table Legend Perkins in 6th, and then the next one's 10th Dan. Were you surprised that well, I guess they didn't do super poorly, but they, for so much of them, they definitely didn't win. They didn't even make top 3. They didn't even podium. Do you have any thoughts on why that was?
No, yeah, it's interesting. I think as they're so popular, it's partly like similar to Vilcol and Kador, right? If you play against Kador, you're probably going to play against Vilcol. And once you understand that there has a 21-inch threat with Avenging Force or 18 outside of it, and you play again, you learn that, you know what that art, you pretty much know what Winter Corpse does. And I think a lot of Shadow Flame Shard lists look pretty similar. You have like a couple of Cohort, which is a Wyvern or Skylar or Trike or whatever. You have some Lashers because like they're the best unit in the army. You have some support, and they threaten very far. They're higher defense, but I'd say most lists do one thing well. They scalpel from far away really well and hit really hard. But if you can play sort of scenario against them, I think it works well. And I think that might be why that they didn't do so well, is that they're very popular, so people get a lot of exposure to them. But also a lot of the list, what they're doing is quite similar. You might have like Kyrex with loads of guys, and you have a list with some war beasts, right? And they sort of do the same thing across multiple warlocks. So I think it might be that people are very used to playing into them, and in the UK they're really popular, like everywhere up and down the UK. So people very regularly play into them. I think it helps that Lilith's still on 1 spell rack, so I don't think she's very competitively popular either. So yeah, I think it's just a case that they're very well practiced against, and they might suffer a little bit that they do similar things across lists. So the things that they do, people are prepared for.
Do you think? I mean, the Welsh Masters is essentially at the cutting edge of War Machine at this point, with list lock for the WTC for us coming out soon, but probably by the time this episode comes out, it'll already have happened. Do you think anything from this event can be pulled to the WTC? For example, do you think Chimera will be popular, but people will be kind of teched against them? Do you think we'll see similar results?
Actually, I know, in terms of like WTC, there were a few people there that were using that as a test bed for some lists for WTC, right? I think it's really hard to extrapolate from single player events to team events, because the dynamic of what is good and bad into your list is so different because of the pairing process. So I think really almost like the 3-person teams is its own little meta in itself. And if you think you're weak into something, you can try and actively avoid it. I think I'm surprised that I hope you get more Brian Bloods in team events. I think they're really strong. I think it'll be interesting if you get Old Umbre, because you won't have Alessia, but I don't know, I wonder do you know what the rule with that is? So Alessia will be out by WTC. She's not out yet, but can you submit a list with her in, knowing that she will be out for WTC?
I think it was released by list lock from memory.
Yeah, I think the bear box is the last one. You'd have to check the WCC thing, but I think they said the bear box was the last one.
But I think that's a
So
huge unlock for the faction too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, really big. Alessia's really good, and the bears are really, really good. So yeah, I think it's hard to extrapolate single player event to team event. I think you'll probably see popular factions be popular, and I think you'll probably maybe see because like House Callis had even though there were 12 players at the event, they had 33% win rate. They really struggled during the event, and Winter Corps even had a lower win rate than that. They were the lowest win rate. So I think probably there's an interesting comic. I think House Callis will probably do better in a team environment where you can take these really hyper specialized lists, target maybe one army list or two. But I think you'll probably see the trends that the most popular armies are still popular. But in terms of lists and sort of analyzing results, I think it's really hard to extrapolate from single player to team.
Yeah, cool. I'd be curious to there's always this threat, and I don't know if anyone's done it last year, but there's always this threat of if someone thinks a faction's so good, do they double rep it? And seeing how many chimeras there, I'm like, oh, is someone gonna rock 2 chimera in a team? They're that popular.
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially between Rasik, Nixian, Cyrus, and Kyrax, you could. I think what you don't do is you don't add a great deal of depth to a roster by doing that. I don't think the 2 players that are rocking them 4 warlocks really offer you much difference between them. But people like Shadowflame Shard, so never say never.
Do we all want to make just an outlandish prediction on a WTC team, and then we'll come back and see whether it'll happen?
As in,
I'll give my example. I'm 100% confident that a WTC team will have 3 Trichimerics on it.
Ooh, in 3 different players.
I don't know what the distribution will be, but one team will have 3 Trichimerics.
Interesting. That is interesting. Ooh, I'll go for there will be a team that is potentially double old numbering.
oh, you fucker! I was gonna say that.
You can be the same, right? You can have the same one.
Nah, Tim can go next, and I can try to figure out a new one.
Look, my prediction is that there will be a team so handsome that they might get banned from distracting local women because of how handsome they are. And the team will be named the Kookaburras. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I can see
think
that
there
happening.
are laws against insider trading, Tim.
Yeah. What does your wife think of that prediction, Tim?
Oh, she agrees. She agrees. That's why she's coming with me. She's worried.
Yeah.
So, no. My actual prediction is that there will be a team with double diggers. That's it.
All right.
Ooh, yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
I think between Vargas, Boom Boom, Jakes, and maybe Kane, you probably have enough difference there to have 2 players.
Yeah, 100%. They're the forecasters for sure.
Yeah. Who do you guys countrywide think will take it?
Oh,
Australia.
look.
It's Australia team
yeah.
3 all the way.
The South African team's looking great. That's a
Yeah.
joke. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Do you think the South African team will be so handsome that they'll distract all the local women, Tim?
They're banned. They're not allowed to attend for that reason.
Yeah. They're too handsome. Yeah, I get that. I don't know who I'd pick. I think it's really open-ended. Europe looks really strong. Oz is looking strong. America looks decent. I think America overhyped himself, but they might do it. But yeah, I think Europe. I think typical Sweden and Denmark, and always incredible at the game. But I think it looks really open-ended. I think the UK team, without massive bias, look really strong. Yeah, I think they've ended, but I'm hopeful for odds. What's your guys your internal team? What would be a success for you? Obviously, winning the whole thing is a success, but is there a result you would come home and be like, okay, we didn't win, but we feel like we represent ourselves well?
Yeah, so I think a success for our team would be meeting a bunch of people, playing some games, and having fun. I think that's my metric. Having never been to the WTC.
To be clear, I'm Connor's official coach. So what he meant is he's going to win every game.
Yes, nice.
What I want to measure success on is if Connor and Tom Wiggins jelly wrestle. I think if that happens, it'll be a win for me personally. Or mud wrestle is fine as well. That's fine.
I like it. I like that. I'm looking forward to seeing the video of that. It'll be good.
Me too. Me too. Oh, actually, we haven't mentioned him. He was in your. You played in. Tom played in your event.
Tom Wiggins.
Yeah,
Yes, he did. He was there.
he's a bit of a legend in Australia. So very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. The business really like him, right?
Yeah, some podcasts are big fans.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Actually, he's a really nice guy. He's a good dude.
All right. Well, did we have any other questions here?
No, I think we've done very well. Aaron's been incredibly generous with us, so thank you so much.
Wow, thanks for having me on, guys. I love coming to talk to you, talk War Machine. It's always a pleasure. So I have to find another topic now to do for another
Absolutely. There's so many War Machine topics. We could talk for hours.
Well, I think we should do a time zone where it's me during the day and you get to have a beer while maybe even me and you watch the WTC while these two are playing.
one. That sounds awesome. Yeah.
I think that's actually got legs.
That could
Yeah, that
actually
sounds
be
really,
fun.
really
Hang
cool.
on.
No, that sounds great.
All
Very
right.
good.
Shall we
Thank
wrap it
you
there
and
then?
thank everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Aaron.
thank you, guys.